Okay, now we've gotten pretty carried away in our technique so far, and it shows the simplest things could be very complex, but I want to go back to simplicity right now with the help of Cliff. Come on over here, Cliff. Just put your right leg forward. You know, in the Form 8, it starts with basically with a few circular movements, and it goes into the finger set. And the finger set is kind of like the beginning of the book. It tells you, it shows you every angle that the knives can be used on within a fight. And so if we go back to the finger set, we can extract some information out of there. There's a lot of knowledge in there that allows me to create techniques and will allow you to create your own techniques. Now, for instance, and I talked earlier about going blade to blade. Now, there's a reason for that. If these were clubs, and Cliff lunged for my face, and I parried, and then you know that you'll see guys use clubs, and the other hand comes in, and they hit this way. And there's nothing wrong with it. In fact, it's very good. Except the problem is if I get a backlash out of him, these are knives, these aren't clubs. And here's the danger. If the first one comes in and I parry, and the second one comes in, and I go to cross his arms, and he backlashes, I'm going to end up cutting myself. And his knives are going to cut me as well. So what you can do with a club doesn't necessarily mean that you can employ the same principles, okay, with the knives because of that backlash. All right, now, if we do get blade to blade, and like I said earlier, it's difficult at best, but if you practice, you can fence with these and actually get blade to blade as you progress through the art of the knives. If he lunges, and we'll take the finger set, and he lunges for me, if I manage to catch the hilt under here, and notice I keep one hand up there as a guard, because if I'm going to try and go blade to blade, I want a double factor involved here so I can protect myself. Now, if I take the first move in the finger set, and because we both have hilts, and I start to run this move towards his throat, not only do I get a check, but if you look over here, move your leg over just a little bit, but I get a cut on that carotid artery right here. Now watch this again. As he lunges, I catch it blade to blade. Don't get your fingers up there. Keep your hands back. He's probably going to pull back anyway, and as he pulls, torque it, and you get a cut and a check at the same time. Now, I'm purposely avoiding this, talking about the left hand right now, because I'm concerned with teaching you just this basic move right here. Okay, watch it again. I pick it up, notice his hand checks, and then I'm going to find out where he's going with this blade. If he starts to arc it in some direction, I'm going to follow him. If he tries to arc it the other way, I'll follow him, and not only will I follow him, but I'll torque it in the opposite direction. If he goes to my right and I just torque my hand, I can torque this right out of his hand and also check it right up against him. Now he's got the blade up against his skin. He's wide open for a strike from my left hand as well. What I'm teaching you here now is blade allows you really to follow where he's going. You can do an exercise where you put your knives together and let him start pushing in different directions. Go ahead, Cliff. You can torque it here if he tries to get out that way. Follow him. If you get up to the point to where it gets too high and he starts to cut back down, stay blade to blade with me, okay? Follow him around. Push towards me. I can push towards me this way. I can torque it and redirect that motion. And you notice here, if I torque it, I can pull it out of his hand this way because his hand becomes a fulcrum because I get caught in here with the hilt, and I can torque it out of his hand. Let's go back up again. Now, we met this way. I'm going to start following him. Go ahead. I can switch my stance as I follow. Okay. If he pushes forward to me, doesn't mean I have to go anywhere else. I can also push and redirect it. If the other hand comes into play and he lunges for my face, you can go blade to blade. As you go blade to blade, you take the bottom hand and torque it and run this into him. Now, leaving the top hand as a cross check. This looks like the universal pattern. Is that an accident? No. Okay, that's the way these knives are designed to be used. By holding that in place, and if you turn a little bit so they can see in the camera, if I suddenly rip down, I'll cut the fingers at this point, and while I'm keeping him checked, I can then turn my blade over and use a principle of using one against the other and torquing it and opening up the body cavity this way. Okay? Now that little technique is in the form. It was a method of striking, and instead of trying to push down for a cut, use your body weight and the hammering power of the knife to do it. Now this all started from a simple move of going blade to blade, okay? And like I said, he can start maneuvering that knife and follow him and get used to feeling that, whether it's this way or whether it's this way. Start moving it towards me. And know and figure out where that blade is. Okay, and then as you guys practice on, you can go blade to blade, and I'm sure most of you guys that are training at this level know what sticky hands are, is when both arms and hands stay together as you practice. If he lunges with the left or with the right, if he tries to pull out of it, go ahead, Cliff. You just start following him and keeping a hold of either the blade to blade, or you may have to go into the wrist to make a cut. But in any case, it's an art. You have to practice it. You've got to understand. You've got to feel the angles of least resistance. You've got to experience it by practicing and understand where he's going with it. Now, if we go back to the finger set, when I went blade to blade this way and I did the first move, it gave me a cut and a check. The second move in finger set is just a vertical move. Well, that allows me to cut straight up underneath, and I keep turning Cliff around so you guys can see, but right up underneath, instead of a cut this way, now the cut goes up underneath the jawline. If I pick Cliff up and I manage to pick it up this way, and I just don't turn it all, but I torque it, then I get a cut on the top part of the knife. If he started to pull back low, then I would follow it into the ribs as well and use that as a cut. Once you get to a corner like that, you can check, turn, and cut. You're not bound to stay in that position at all. So what I'd like you to do, thank you, Cliff, very much, is to take your knives, go back to the previous tape, and take a look at some of the things that are going on in that form, and see if you can't put it to use and design your own technique.